No idea what that last chord was.
Me neither.
Hey guys, it's the Captain here on Andertons TV, and today it is my huge pleasure and honour to have over from the States Mr. Kirk Fletcher.
Howdy.
So, what brings you to these fine shores, Kirk?
Well, I'm over here to plug my tour coming up in September, and also to meet the fine folks at Andertons and to talk about how glad I am to be here and not on a plane.
Well, we've just had a lovely lunch and been chatting about stuff, and you guys know how the kind of Captain Meets kind of format goes. I think most people, I know a lot of guitarists will be familiar with the name because, you know, last 2 or 3 years certainly you've kind of come up on this sort of rising tide of I wouldn't say like a new wave, but there's been, you know, 3 or 4 guys coming out of the States now, and you're one of them who people are sort of going, oh, he's got some licks. But, you know, take us back, you know, how did you first get into guitar, and, you know, what was it that flicked that switch?
Well, my older brother, Walter Fletcher, is the guy that really flicked that switch for me. Seeing him play in my father's church when I was just a kid was the thing that really set me off on this whole crazy thing we call music. And yeah, just growing up playing in church like so many other musicians, you know, playing in my dad's church, and like just being, you know, around the whole everyone join in kind of, you know, uplifting kind of musical, whatever you can do, tambourines, snare drums, whatever you got, just make some joyful noise with it. So that's really how it started, and that's still one of the most fun things I can think of whenever I think about music in general.
Just like gospel kind of roots?
Yeah, gospel, like the whole Church of God in Christ, Holy Roller, Pentecostal, you know, thing where everybody just goes crazy.
Oh, that's awesome. And can you remember what your first guitar was, and you know?
Well, the first guitar was like this Sears and Roebuck acoustic guitar, and it was all messed up, and I think I had like one guitar string on it. And there's this funny story about me putting a hole in it where the jack goes, I guess, on this acoustic guitar, trying to like make it into an electric when I was just a little kid, you know. But my first legit guitar was probably a Squier Strat, you know, like every kid from the 80s.
Yeah,
I had the black
sure,
Squier Strat, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I just went from there.
And was there an artist that you thought to yourself, you know, that's the guy I want to be, or, you know, different artists?
Well, you know, once again, my older brother, Walt, he listened to everything, and he was just one of these guys that like listened to all different kinds of music. So like I would go to his house and he would have all the Guitar Player magazines and like, you know, Van Halen Diver down to Jimi Hendrix to everything. So I didn't have like, you know, one particular genre or think about it even. I just thought, if it's good guitar playing, I like it. That could be MTV rock videos or like gospel music or whatever, you know.
Because I'm kind of thinking back to the 80s now and thinking that was, I don't know, how old are you?
I'm 40.
Okay, so you're a little bit young. You're a little bit younger than I am, but we probably learned to play guitar around about the same time. Clearly, you practiced much harder than I did. No, you did definitely. But I'm thinking that so you're around about that kind of. I guess Stevie Ray would have just been kind of carving things up then. Yeah. I know for me, my favorite Eric Clapton album, even to date now, is still the kind of stuff he did in the 80s, like the August and Journeyman kind of stuff, And I just remember watching those guys and thinking, oh man, this is just...
The Journeyman, that's like, man, that was like Pretending and all that stuff, and that tone he was getting. Everybody always says like, oh, he's got to play a Gibson, he has to play a Gibson, but Journeyman was a pretty massive tone, I thought.
That's I have it's actually a Squire Strat, but I have it with the Clapton boost in it. And you get that tone, all the boost dialed in, Fender amp with a little bit of drive on it, and you can sit on those kind of notes forever. And it's such a iconic Clapton kind of sound. It just
and then his singing was incredible, and I think the 60s we all love him and he became the guitar guy in the 60s, and then the 70s he was really trying to move more towards songwriting and everything and play more of a Fender style guitar for the rhythm and everything, and then the 80s is like full steam ahead.
That's interesting because I know I was quite disappointed when I first started to sort of buy some of the Clapton back catalogue, because you're completely right. He's like this god in Cream and that kind of vibe. And then the early 70s stuff, it almost is. I don't know if he's finding himself or whether or because I think he was bad place with drink and drugs and everything that time. But and then the 80s for me, he just kind of comes. He just smashes it. It's just amazing. So you've got this Squire Strat, and you got this big brother who's kind of showing you a few chords.
Yeah, showing me a lot.
What was the did Walter ever was he a successful musician? Or?
Well, in my book he was successful because he's my big brother. But he played a lot in church and then done R&B, and he went to Japan. So he was definitely on the circuit and definitely a force to be reckoned with. And just his big tone, and just, using pedals and the whole, he was always just one of those guys that was just super hip.
Yeah, he was. Oh, cool. Well, so tell me about then. So you got this Squire thing. You've presumably gone through school and college and that. And then when did you start to think to yourself, just school, whatever. Yeah. When was that moment where you started to think to yourself, I could actually make a living out of doing this?
Well, it's funny because I had already been playing since I was like 8 or 9, but to really make a career out of it, that didn't really come until later because I thought I would just get a day job and be a weekend warrior guitar player. But the thing was, this music store called Music Works in Redondo Beach, California. It's still there, by the way. That meeting people in that music store and hanging out there every day after high school really showed me that, maybe I can do this. There's all these other people. And then I met Robben Ford through his guitar tech at that time. And just seeing, Robben and the band rehearse and everything, the Blue Line at that time really showed me, man, maybe I should probably try and pursue this because this is what I love the most. So if it wasn't for that, I probably would be working at the post office like my dad did.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a good
There's
career.
Definitely not anything wrong with that.
But so I'm always kind of, because I think my life kind of, I didn't start when I was quite as young as you. I probably was 13 or 14 before I really started to play guitar. But the thread that I find consistently when I meet really great guitar players is the dedication that they put in through their probably teenage years to playing. And I for anybody that's kind of watching, and I know, there'll be a ton of guys who are watching this that are in their 30s and 40s and everything like that. But for the guys who are maybe in their early teens that are watching this, what kind of a level of dedication were you putting into the guitar, and how were you just getting, when you sort of say, when I started hanging with Robben Ford, it's like Robben Ford would not have hung with you if you couldn't play guitar at that age.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because actually I wasn't really hanging with Robben Ford. Actually, when I first met Robben Ford, it was just, picking up amplifiers and stringing guitars and stuff like that and helping out his tech. So he really didn't even know I played guitar until like years later, and I was that serious about guitar. But that's one of the beautiful things, I think, is to just be humble and to not say much, but just try and be a sponge.
Yeah.
And I think, if a person thinks they know everything, it's harder for them to learn than a person that I think is just trying to be a sponge.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's like I tried to take notes, in my brain and think about the sound that he got and the phrasing and the way he played chords. Or just asked him a question, what Miles Davis record should I get? What John Coltrane should I get? Why do you like that? Or, something like that. Or what's a 1-4-5 progression? Just that one question every little time. And that went a long way,
I must admit, I'm almost embarrassed to say that I hear, I knew what a 1-4-5 progression was, but I didn't know why it was a 1-4-5.
Yeah,
I only found out about 2 months ago why it's even called a 1-4-5.
Yeah, I understand. I totally understand, because I definitely didn't know what it was, and I kind of learned that on the bandstand.
Yeah,
being embarrassed on the bandstand.
when the leader shouts out, "This one's..."
Yeah, because when you're playing in church, you're just going for it. In church, you just play whatever you can, as fast as you can sometimes, but,
So... So let's take you through. I know more recently you've done the whole Kirk Fletcher solo kind of thing, but you had quite a good break with a band called the Thunderbirds, Fabulous Thunderbirds. So tell us how that happened and what that was like.
Well, actually, to make a long story short, or try to, there was this guy named Al Blake from the Hollywood Fats Band, who's a legendary guitar player from the California area. I met him, and he introduced me to Kim Wilson and Lynwood Slim and all of these guys. So it wasn't just like an overnight thing. I kind of, cut my teeth playing with Al Blake, Lynwood Slim, Janova Magnus, Charlie Musselwhite, and Kim Wilson in the solo band before the Fabulous Thunderbirds. But, there's that whole club scene thing that went on, and then I joined the Fabulous Thunderbirds, and that was fantastic. And another guitar player that was in that band with me was Nick Curran. Who's no longer with us, but a fantastic guitar player. So we both kind of played in that band, and we really wanted to try and make the Fabulous Thunderbirds kind of like it was, when Jimmie Vaughan was in the band. Because to me, I know Nick Curran would say the same thing. It's like Jimmie Vaughan is one of the absolute most amazing guitar players ever.
Well, do you know what? You're not the first. That's a Nashville thing, I think, because there's. Again, I certainly know. I think the best and the worst thing that could possibly have happened to Jimmie Vaughan was being Stevie's brother, because it was like, on the one hand, inevitably there will be comparisons, and I kind of, I don't know. For me, Stevie was more my kind of thing than Jimmie, but I guess on the flip side, of course, there is an argument that says if he hadn't been Stevie's brother, maybe no one would have, no one would have heard of him anyway. So that's what I mean about like the best and the worst kind of thing. But it's surprised me, and I kind of feel like I need to go back and revisit some Jimmie Vaughan stuff, because you're about the third or fourth kind of player now who's cited Jimmie as like, you know, the man. And I'm just like, really? It never kind of, maybe I've just not seen enough of him. But
You know, I know this sounds weird, but sometimes I actually forget that it is Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother. Because I'm a big fan. I grew up listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan, knew every song, played along to the records. And I viewed the Fabulous Thunderbirds and Stevie Ray Vaughan so different.
Yeah.
You know, because to me, Jimmie Vaughan was such a stylist as far as his rhythmic work and supporting and also playing the perfect thing at the right time and getting out. And you go, it almost made me feel like I was, you know, Yngwie Malmsteen or something, you know, compared to, you know, somebody like B.B. King.
Yeah.
I mean, and nothing wrong with Yngwie Malmsteen, but for me, I just listen to Jimmie Vaughan and hear so much taste and feeling and attitude and the perfect, you know, thing to play at the right time.
What would you listen to then? Because I need to get back into this, because I think the only Jimmie stuff that I've heard is when he's done the guest appearances at the sort of Crossroads festivals and things like that. And I don't know, just left me feeling, you know, a little bit like, you know, it's okay, but it's not really. But so what should I be listening to?
Well,
I should get some old Fabulous Thunderbirds
I think
stuff,
the Fabulous Thunderbirds, the first Fabulous Thunderbirds record and Butt Rockin', the first Fabulous Thunderbirds and then Butt Rockin' and then T-Bird Rhythm and I know I'm leaving out one. But though the first one, just get the first one.
Okay.
And I mean that whole, you know, harmonica, Chicago blues meets the Texas style, whatever they do, that mixture, and then the whole Louisiana style thing. And Jimmie's playing his butt off on that. And that record, and then like I even like, you know, like the Tough Enough kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then you get into like Strange Pleasure, his first solo record that he done. It's some great tone and some great phrasing and just, you know, attitude on there.
Okay.
I think it's
that's
fun.
a bit good advice. I'm going to definitely go and check that out.
Yeah.
So, and how's your kind of gear thing kind of going through this time? Were you like you always been a Les Paul guy, or did you have like a Strat or a Telly sort of vibe?
Are you going to get mad at me?
No, not at all.
Because this is sort of like a guitar thing and everything, but of course I've done different things. I've worked with an Italian artist named Eros Ramazzotti a few years ago, and I had to have the pedal board and the delays synced up and everything a little bit. I still was like a fish out of water, but I tried.
Yeah.
But I've had a pedal board here and there, and I've liked pedals and stuff, but over the last few years or so, I would guess, I don't know if that's because of traveling or what, but I've kind of really, you know, took it to real minimal stuff, like a reverb and some kind of overdrive pedal.
Yeah. Well, I think that journey, I think most players go through that kind of, you know, you learn to play, you know, you buy your first okay sounding amplifier, then you buy a pedal, then 2, then 3 pedals, then you go, I need multi-effects pedals. So then you buy multi-effect, and then I don't know, and then I think there's a point where some guitarists stay on that journey and they just have bigger and crazier pedal boards forever, and then other guitarists, and I think I'd probably be more like you on that one, just go, I think I just need to find a good guitar, a good amp, and, you know, a nice overdrive pedal, and then happy days.
And I mean, I'm a LA kid, so I'm not, you know, dissing on pedal boards at all, because I got some friends that can make pedal boards do amazing things, and there's no way they could do it without those pedals, you know, and like the delays and the reverb and the way they blend in different things and the whole stereo wet dry thing and all that. That's amazing, and I'm a fan of them doing that. But for me, the guitar is starting to really become, well, pretty much the whole time is I tried to make it a voice.
Yeah.
You know, and just like sing on the note, and I've gravitated towards a Les Paul recently because it's the closest thing I can get to like a sustaining like voice, like, I don't know, Nina Simone or Aretha Franklin or Mavis Staples or somebody like that, you know, or even like B.B. King or something. It just seems like it's a connection.
Yeah. Play us a little bit of, you know, how you, you know, how you'd approach like a, you know, just a straightforward, you know, phrase to play over you know, a couple of nice chords like that, and then
like that. I don't know.
Sounds
I'm just
great.
messing around. I don't know what I'm doing.
No, it's a fabulous sound, and I guess that the so when you left the Thunderbirds and you decided you'd go on your own kind of solo career, we were talking a bit earlier on that you thought, right, I'm going to sing and play guitar now. So what would that? I mean, that must have been pretty kind of nerve-wracking, wasn't it?
Scary.
That first?
Well, it took a long time for me because Mike Landau and Josh Smith, my buddy, and a few others always told Paulie Sarah. These guys always tried to get me to sing, and it took a long time because it's just something, new, and you're just like, oh man, I've been playing my whole life, and now I'm going to try and do something new, take up a different instrument almost, So it was basically out of necessity, just wanting to front my band, and I don't really want to do all instrumental because I like songs, so I was like, for better or for worse, I'm going to try and do it, So it's still a work in progress, but,
Well, and it's interesting because you got 3 or 4 albums, I think, since you left the Thunderbirds. And I think most people, if they see you, they'll see you doing what I would consider, pretty traditional old school blues, big voice singing, that kind of 50s, 60s kind of, just, like you're saying, South, it's a South blues, kind of Texas blues. Mm-hmm. And then you've got one album, My Time.
Mm-hmm. My Turn?
My Turn.
Yeah.
Sorry, My Turn. And that's just, that goes on there's a little bit, it feels to me like there's a bit less singing on that one, and it's more kind of like, let's just get funky and dirty on this guitar.
Boy, that really sums it up.
But and that's it. That's a killer album. So
thank you so much.
Where did you, was that like something you felt you had to just get out your system, or?
Yep. Exactly. I love traditional blues, and I really, really, really love Chicago blues and West Coast blues and Texas blues. Even like everybody thinks Stevie Ray Vaughan is like, they think of Stevie Ray Vaughan as Texas blues, but I mean kind of like Gatemouth Brown and people like that, a little farther back. And I've always been a guy to go back. Yeah. Like even if I listen to pop music or country or whatever I listen to, it's always, I want to go back because I've always just been like that ever since a little kid. So what was your question again?
It was just kind of, I can see, as you say, almost like the gospel thing, the Chicago thing, everything, as in like, I'm going to stand at the front, I'm going to just play this kind of like rock and roll bluesy kind of stuff. But yeah, so My Turn is I was just interested because that definitely felt, and I thought it showed you as a much more complete guitar player than just basically playing a lot of the sort of the standard kind of blues progression stuff, and the stuff, of course, when you've collaborated with Josh and and again, I think it just, I guess just you play differently. You brings out something different in you.
I think that My Turn was definitely influenced by hanging out with Mike Landau more, and Travis Carlton and the guys that helped me put that CD together. And yeah, I just wanted to do something fun. I didn't really think, I didn't have a record label or anything. And I just wanted to do something where it was just, I could just play and not think about being in any one, kind of confining thing, like, I have to play like in this style or keep it within this box. But on the other hand, that's a contradiction for me because I love the box. Yeah. I love keeping things in boxes. And if I'm going to do something different, or if I'm going to do something, I like to just maybe write a new song. Yeah. And it can be whatever I want because it's my song. Yeah. But if I'm doing Sweet Home Chicago or something like that, I like to kind of play it closer to, somebody like Robert Lockwood Jr. or somebody, But that record was, just like, just a release kind of in a way. And, our plan now, what the thing is I want to do now is like sort of write songs and just see whatever comes out, because I've been so into like ballads lately.
Okay.
You know, and just putting, you know, a solo inside a great song, you know, to complete the whole picture now, since I'm going to try and sing every song on the record. And yeah, so we'll see. It'll be like my turn, you know, again, but different. The same but different, as Cheech and Chong says.
I look forward to that. So look, we're going to just finish up, I think. We should talk about the last, must be about 6 months or so.
Sure.
You've been using blues cubes.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, you know, I mean, for guys like you know, normally it's a pretty hardcore valve thing. It's like, you know, if it ain't valve, then it's...
It is.
So what's the deal there?
Well, you know, it's I'm always intrigued by something, to see if I can do my Kirk Fletcher thing with something that's new and cutting edge in a way and keep it cool, you know. So I just thought, I saw the Eric Johnson tone capsule, and I knew Yoshi, the head guy at Roland. And I was like, man, these guys are really, really nice, and I really think this is a cool thing. So what can I do? So if Eric got that, could I get like, you know, my super reverb kind of thing, you know, in the style of, I knew I didn't want to try and mimic that super reverb that I play. I mean, that's a whole different thing, but there were things that I wanted to try and achieve with having a really cleaner tone than the super, and then having a drive tone where I wouldn't have to use any pedals, because I don't like to use pedals that much. You know, I do use a Chula by Love Pedal and Vigneron Jan Ray and a couple other things. But, you know, I just wanted to have all in one amp. Yeah. You know, and just try and see how far we could get something to sound good. And I mean, that was the fun experience. That was a fun experience, you know. Yeah.
Well, why don't we just hear? So if I let me just see here. If we go with, so this is just your straightforward clean tone. And this has got the Ultimate Blues tone capsule in it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's the one that you worked with Boss on that to get that kind of sound. I mean, I don't think. Again, it's one of those things, and I kind of purposely, I know, you know, I wanted to talk about the Blues Cube, but I kind of wanted to leave it right to the end, because I didn't really want everybody through. I just wanted people in the video to hear you playing guitar and, you know, just listening and not going, oh, is that a tube amp or isn't that a tube amplifier? And I just think it's very, very easy to just go, it's just a great sounding amplifier. What is there? There's nothing wrong with that.
That's
when you dirty it up, would you typically go kind of like just little bit of dirt? Or
I usually play with not a lot of gain at all.
Let's see what this sounds like then.
Something like that, you know.
If you're wondering as well, I don't know if he's patented it or not, but Kirk plays his A chord super cool, don't you? It's like, you got to put your little finger on the 5th fret of the top 2 strings.
I don't know. I think that's from like Eric Johnson.
Oh, is it? I know. I stole it. I say stole it. I don't play it like that very often. But Paul Gilbert was the guy that always his A chord like this.
Paul Gilbert, man.
Maybe he stole it from Eric Johnson. I don't know. Or maybe Eric stole it from him. Maybe. Who knows? It's a free chord. There's no copyright on these things.
Yeah. I don't know where I got that from. Later, I saw like country blues guys that might play. But they wouldn't really. That's like, Are You Experienced or something?
Yes. Yeah, it's got. I love the D with the you know, the thumb over the top on the 2nd fret of the E string. They're good chords. They're good.
You gonna ask me about my Les Paul?
I do, because I mean, it's so weird. For like the second time in a row now, we're going to have just talking about Les Pauls. So you guys will recognise this one. This is my 58 that I've had for coming up for about 18 months now.
She's a beauty.
And you could be forgiven for thinking that Kirk is travelling around with a Les Paul that's the price of a small house, but or a big house, depending on where you live.
Totally. Could be somewhere in, I don't know, Montana or something.
But so tell us what this is.
This is well, it came from the factory as a Gibson Nicky, but it's affectionately been called, had to be after my late great aunt.
Right.
Had to be from Pine Bluff, Arkansas, because she was a real fiery lady and really a tough lady, and this guitar is tough and it sings for me, and I love it. And I've grovered it. Yeah, I did grover it just because I can only fly with one guitar and I want it to be in tune.
So it's the collector's choice Nicky, which so that can't be that old then, can it? Because the Nicky is less than a year old.
Actually, I got this guitar in August as a part of the I was on the Joe Bonamassa Three Kings tour, and Joe kind of him took me to the Gibson factory in Nashville, and I picked this one out, and it's been my baby.
You have the good friends, don't you? It's like, just come down to the Gibson factory.
I'm really blessed to have some good friends, and hopefully one day I can pay them back.
It's not about paying back, though, is it? It's just no. What you need to do is the next generation that comes through. You know, you just need to say to them, just say, yeah, come with me. I'll get you that guitar from Gibson.
And I would totally do it.
It's such a pretty guitar, this one, isn't it? So it's a if you're not familiar with Collector's Choice, this would have been very, very closely modelled on an original '59 Les Paul.
Yeah, it's Charlie Daughtry. Yeah, and he told me I would get to play the real Nicky if I ever came through, what is it, Colorado or something,
or
Texas.
So you've spoken to you met the guy that owns the original one of these, and he still has it, does he?
He does. Sans the Grovers, I put those on, but other than that, it's some bigger frets.
And you're just using the custom buckers that came in it. You haven't changed.
I love those. I wouldn't change those custom buckers for anything.
Do you do anything? Because I know on mine that this is how it came, and I noticed that the tailpiece on a lot of these old reissues are screwed right into the body, aren't they? And on more modern guitars, you see them slightly raised.
Yeah.
And then you see people who wrap around the strings.
Yeah, Joe B does that.
Yeah, I'm too scared to kind of I kind of don't want to adjust anything about this.
That's how I am. I'm frightened. Something's going to change.
Yeah, so, and then I won't like it as much, and then I won't be able to put it back to how it was when I liked it.
Exactly.
So I don't touch anything.
Yeah.
And you just, what are you, like a 10 to 46 guy? Or?
Actually, I started with 10s on this guitar, and then I moved to 11s maybe in last September. Yeah, last September. Yeah. And I like the 11s a lot.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm a Fender guy.
Yeah.
Grew up playing Fenders, Strats, and Tellys. And I love Fender Strats. That's probably my, Desert Island guitar because it's the one I started on.
Yeah.
But right now, I tell you, this Les Paul, I think that's, you find a great guitar, that you really like and it speaks to you, and then you go from there. So it could be a great Telecaster, it could be a great Strat, it could be a great Les Paul, but for me right now, this guitar talks.
That is amen, I think, is the word we're looking for there. I spend my working life dealing with lots of customers where I feel like I'm trying to somehow justify how you could possibly ever spend, £5,000-6,000 pounds. Don't know what, it's probably more than that in dollars, isn't it? On a single guitar. And there is only one way you just have to go, look, sit, try. Because either it's going to do something for you on a spiritual level and you're just going to go, okay, I get it. Or it isn't. And you're going to go, that's fine, I'll walk away. Yeah. But it's just this, and you're completely right. It's not just about Les Pauls. It's most guitar brands. There's when you get up to the stuff where the top luthiers, the top guys are going, I'm making these guitars. Yeah. They just do stuff, don't they? Yeah. And although, let's be honest with you, those old Squire Strats as well. Great. It's like, if you wanted to, I think we were lucky, and our generation was probably the first maybe the first generation that actually could play something okay when we started. I know, like my dad's generation. I don't know about your dad. They had some shitty stuff to learn to play on in their day, like really bad.
It was bad.
It was so bad. You just think, I don't know how you stuck through this.
Yeah,
it's like
the action was like a mile. Yeah.
So we I guess we were probably the first of the sort of the more fortunate.
But that's our era, though. I mean, like the whole, you couldn't like shred on a guitar with. I mean, the designers I think were catering to people that were going to shred.
Yeah.
So we were lucky.
Well, we were. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure, man.
Tell us,
your tour is in September.
Yeah.
Where can people find details of seeing you?
On my website, kirkfletcherband.com. Dudley Ross is the cat in charge. And
yeah. Cool, man.
He's the guy.
All right. Well, look, go check that out. I'll put a link in the description section below.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, man. It's been a super pleasure, and good luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you later, guys.
To be had.